Penanga live here at Citizen Television. Here we are at the bench. And guess what? Still waiting for my guest. Oh, there they are. There they are. Finally. Mbita, Member of Parliament, Millie Odhiambo, there side by side with Murang'a County Women's Rep Sabina Chege, making their way to the studio. Here we go. Here we go. Oh yeah, it's gonna be smoky. All right, come on, ladies. Come on, come on, come on.
Yeah.
Ladies.
How are you?
How you doing?
We're good. Can you imagine you have two women?
Two women at once. Guessa.
And Sabina.
Sabina. How are you, my dear? Nice to see you. First of all, everyone wants to see you guys hugging and shaking hands in the spirit of the handshake.
And kissing.
Whatever. So let's get that out of the way.
Which one we start with first?
Handshake and hug.
I have to make my mic.
Thank you.
You see, this is how it starts. You can hold my mic. You know. Yes.
There you go. 1, 2, 3. Oh.
Yeah, and now the handshake.
The handshake.
Have a seat now, ladies.
Thank you.
Well done. Karibu?
Yeah.
Right by the JK, yeah, right there, by the JK sign. Perfect.
You love yourself.
Sit on JK right there. Good to see you, ladies. And welcome to JK Live.
Thank you.
Both of you.
Thank you very much.
Where do we start? Okay. Where have you been, Millie? You've been very quiet of late.
It's good. You can't talk all the time, especially when there's not much to talk about. After the handshake, what do you talk about?
Yes.
You first absorb the handshake, see how the country is moving. It's a good thing.
And so far?
So good.
What's more?
We are happy we can now work. There's no competition. There's no unnecessary noise. Millie's not shouting too much. In Parliament, I'm having peace. So I can sit and chat with Millie. I can consult her because she's my senior. And now we are benefiting a lot. Actually, as Parliament, as colleagues, as women, as a nation, I think there's so much benefit from the handshake, and we're happy. Yeah.
We'll get back to the handshake in a moment. But first, the horrific news that started off this past weekend. The state of our schools.
Yes.
If a rape or several rapes or alleged rapes can happen at a school in the capital city. Millie, I mean, what's going on? What's happening?
That was terrible.
Yeah.
And I think it actually shows not that it just happened in one school. Because I was shocked to discover that the same night, a similar incident almost happened in a school in my constituency. But a guy was discovered under the bed, but fortunately was found before he did anything to the girls. So really it shows, one, that the state of the security of our girls in schools is wanting, and there's something that we are doing wrong to protect our girls in schools. I know some people have given it a tilt. They say the girls are bringing in the men and stuff like that. It does not matter, because the law says a person below 18 years cannot legally consent to sex. So if you come into a girl's dorm with the aim of having sex with her and she's below 18 years, you are the person on the wrong. So I think we must relook at the issue of security. I don't know if you are no longer in education. I'm in health now. Yeah, I'm so used to her face in education.
Correct.
Yeah, the education committee was in Moi today.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they'll give us their finding, but there's a lot of issues to do with security.
And there was also an incident, Sabina, in Murang'a as well.
Yes.
In Murang'a,
yes.
Last evening,
correct,
we lost a girl, a primary school girl from one of the schools in Muthithi, Kegomo constituency. She went missing when she left school in the evening, and today she was found raped and dead. And I guess this is a reflection of not just what is happening to our girls in the schools, but a reflection of what kind of people we have in our society. I've had so many incidences in Murang'a. A month ago, we buried a young girl, 7-year-old, who was raped by a 14-year-old boy. And this boy threatened the parents, was targeting a different girl. There was an incident in the village, and the mother of the reported to the chief, and so he threatened the mother that something bad will happen. He was targeting the daughter to the lady, and then met this other small girl, 7-year-old, raped her and killed her. And her mother tried to hide the boy. The community went. Unfortunately, when they found the guy, they beat him up, and unfortunately, he passed on. But it's a reflection of what is happening in our society. I've had incidences of fathers. 2 days ago, actually, my team today took a child to Murang Hospital, a boy who was sodomized by the father in Dandora. Then the mother found the only safe way to take the boy away from the father is to take the boy home. Again, in Mudidi, in Keguma constituency. I was called by the journalist and I was told the boy was just left with an old grandmother and he was sodomized, he was not treated. So we are starting from now treating the boy. And these incidences are so many. If I am to narrate them, there are too many. And the question is, what is wrong with our society? A society that we are saying 80% of us, we are Christians. Where are the moral values? It is actually immoral. It is evil. It is a society that is selfish, and we need to go back to the drawing board. When I was in education, we introduced the value-based kind of curriculum. And I think it will see the fruits from that kind of curriculum later, where we have people in the society who not only go to school to learn about education and maybe to become professional, but also to be human. And I think the kind of society we have men and women who have no humanity in them, who don't think about other people, who have no feelings. And the issue of drugs also is real. We as a Central Kenya try to fight the issue of alcoholism. We have tried a little bit. Now marijuana is now the talk of the day. We have tried our security. They are going to nab those people who are selling. They are known in the villages. We need to sit and have a serious conversation and a very one-on-one conversation with ourselves and ask ourselves, where did we go wrong? We need to start from our churches. Our churches need not just to preach about going to heaven, but to tell people how to live with each other in this world. Because yes, we'll go to heaven, but how do you live with each other in the world?
I think Sabina nailed it, Millie. She says what the kids are doing is a reflection of us.
That is true.
We are all kind of the same age. I'm a little older than you guys, but when we were growing up...
You're my age.
No, I'm older than you.
No, you're not. But
when we were growing up, none of this used to happen.
Very rare.
Very rarely, correct.
That was very rare. That's true. So I think there is one, of course, there's the issue of population growth that is likely to happen, and the issue of urbanization. But I think the greater challenge is also lack of implementation, the culture of impunity. Remember, before I came into Parliament, I worked with the Credo. I was the executive director of the Credo. And these cases were so many. You know, when I was at the Cradle, on a daily basis, you could receive up to 5, 10 cases of rape, even children as young as 6 months, 1 year old. There were such horrific cases. Sometimes they come to you with when an adult tries to rape a little kid, there was one case that we dealt with that the whole uterus was out, and you have to do reconstructive surgery. Some of them, lose their reproductive rights, right from childhood. So, but, the challenge even then was that whenever you took these cases to court, they would have been compromised of the evidence, there would have been poor prosecution and all that. So people get away with it. I remember one case where we dealt with a girl who was raped by 2 men, adults. And when we started following up the case, they went and told the parents, if you don't drop this case, we are going to rape again and you're not taking us anywhere. And they went ahead and raped again.
What?
And we never found any prosecution in any of those 2 cases because the police were bribed. In some of them, another girl, a very young, pretty girl, a gang of boys in their neighborhood kept threatening her. She went and reported to the police continuously. They never did anything. The gang raped her after she has reported to the police, severally. So I think there's also the culture of impunity that, enables people, to continue, because they know even if I do it, nothing will happen.
Yeah.
So I think we need to, at the prosecution level, we need to take these cases very seriously, and people need to know that if you rape a girl, you will actually, go to jail. But also there's just what I was saying earlier. I've been discussing with people on Facebook around these issues, because I posted about the incident in my constituency and the one in Moi Nairobi Girls. And everybody, a lot of people are like, you are defending these girls and they are guilty. The girls are, presumably all below 18 years.
Yeah.
So legally they can't consent to sex. It's more like the case of the lady who was jailed and people came all out in her defense.
Yes.
And I said, I don't care even if, you know, she was a woman and this is a young guy, all of us also have this mentality that we can't, our little boys can't be abused. The law is very clear. It doesn't matter if it's a girl or a boy. Below 18 years, no goes on.
Yeah.
Look for 19 plus.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Sabina, I lived in South Africa for a few years. That country was known as the murder capital of the world and the rape capital of the world. And, you know, when analysts or psychologists try to analyze what was going on, they found the nation was such an angry nation.
Yeah.
Angry, you know, from apartheid onwards. What is wrong with us? What is wrong with us that we are doing this to our children?
It is difficult to point out what is wrong because there are various reasons given on these incidences. But I think it's a country that we have lost our moral value. And basically, when you look at the incidences, they are all unique. They are different. I dealt with a case of a father who used to drag the daughter and the mother, and he would just come innocently in the evening and make them sleep. Then he would at night go and rape the daughter. And at some point, he actually now told the daughter, now I want to be doing it when you're not asleep, when I'm not dragging you. So you ask yourself, is that a sane person? The same thing Millie saying, the case went to court, followed up. There was, the guy is now free. I normally see him. And I really feel bad. We have a society, I don't know whether it's a don't care situation or attitude, but I think we need to see, and I think we need to have very punitive measures where people know that if I do this, then this will happen to me. And I think we need people to be a little bit scared. What has happened now? In case of a girl or a boy, because even our the boy child is not safe. In case a boy is sodomized or a girl is raped, there's all this whole story of evidence and then going to court, and it becomes strenuous. A lot of the affected ones are not even able to have a lawyer. So what happens, it takes so much time, and I think we need now to have special and specific courts that can deal with gender-based violence, you know, even with the rape cases. That if a case is reported today, within a month, it is done. You don't have to wait for such a long time. I rescued a girl who was raped by the uncle, and they were living together. And I interacted with the auntie, who is a sister to the mother of the girl. The mother had passed on, and this lady took the girl to take care of her. And then the husband was raping her. The neighbors, they knew. And when they raised the issue, of course, the wife dismissed it, and she knew about it. Then, unfortunately, the girl got pregnant. And so the social worker actually, who reported the case and took the girl, was also arrested because these people went around and now framed her. But we had to rescue the girl. We had to take her to a rescue center. We had to wait for her because when she gave birth, they had to go through DNA. And of course, it turned out that this guy had done this thing. Yes. The lady turned out to actually, she was a person I knew was my supporter. So she was the first person during the election who was fighting me and saying all the bad things about me, because I actually called her and I asked her, this girl, you know, the mother is your sister, who is late sister. She's like your own child. How would you have felt if your husband really did the same thing to your daughter? So we can't really point out, but I think we need to have very strict measures. We need to have gender-based violence centers. We need to have policemen and women who are trained to handle these cases. Because at some point you go to a policeman and when you're reporting, they even start like joking and ridiculing, you know, how did you do this? So are you sure? How are you dressed? Are you sure you're not the one who led the man to do that? You know, they start making it a big joke. Yeah. And so you're already humiliated. You have already been humiliated by the first incidents of rape, and then it comes to a second time where you're going to report. Then the same thing in courts. When they're giving evidence, then how do you show the evidence? When you are raped, most of the times you are either alone. So how do you actually give evidence? Apart from if then there was the DNA test and you went and reported and all these things were done. So even the training of our doctors, I think we need to have a very clear way of dealing with these things. And of course then, even the judges, we need to have specific magistrates and people who deal with these kind of cases who are ruthless. And so a person knows, in case I commit this kind of an offense, I will not go away with it. But we have a nation where people buy their freedom. People go to court and they can be able to compromise the judges and the magistrates. They can be able to buy their own freedom. And the worst part is where a society, and this is what is happening in our villages, when such an incident happens, so they will go and report either to the chief or to the police, and they will say, we'll sort it out at the village level. So the elders will speak about it. And what happens? Yes, the elders will speak about it. The parents are given some amount of money. But what they forget is that they have done a permanent damage to that girl or to that boy. And so it might be taken just something simple that the elders will talk about it. We'll have settled, we'll bring several cows or goats, and then we forget about it. But you have done really something that is permanent to that child.
Absolutely.
So we really need to have a channel. Maybe we are the lawmakers. We need to specifically come up with special courts and even special people to handle these cases. Training must be done. And then as a society, it's a wake-up call. What are we doing to ourselves? Because what will happen, these children will grow up, they would want to revenge. I met one boy who was into drugs. And he told me at 14 years, his father was a very rich man. And I just happened to work with him, and I was his boss. And we realized he was in drugs. And so when we were taking him to the rehabilitation, he told us at 14 years, he was out of the country, they were rich, and he had been taken to these very nice schools. And then he was sodomized, and he couldn't come into terms with it. He didn't have anybody to share with. So even in our schools, I want to just be very categorical here. There's a lot of lesbianism in our schools. There's a lot of homosexuality in our schools. And when these children come or report to the teachers or the principals try to hide it because they don't want to ruin the name of the school. I think we need to have, the Ministry of Education should deploy, specifically not a teacher, a counselor, somebody who is assigned specifically to deal with issues. Children go to school with a lot of burdens. Either their family have broken down, either they have some things that they are going to experience through life, and especially the high school children between the age of 12 all the way to 15, 18 there. They have issues. They are dealing with the changes in their bodies and everything else. They cannot, sometimes they're not able to understand themselves. Sometimes the peer pressure and everything else. We need the Ministry of Education, apart from just saying we're having a new board or we want to have a new headmistress, they need to actually send a counselor in each school, somebody who is trained, somebody whose work is not to teach mathematics, because I cannot go to disclose my issues with the teacher who will in turn then come and start teaching me CRE or history or mathematics. They need a specific office where these children can go and open up and tell this counselor, this is what we are going through, either in school, because there is a lot of things, there are a lot of things happening, use of drugs, abuse, they don't know who to talk to. Others get themselves in it, they don't know how to get out of it, they want to get out of it. So we need to really have, even in our school structure where we have our boarding schools, even our day schools, have somebody that these children can talk to, apart from their head teachers, because sometimes they hide these things. And
us parents are to blame for a lot of that, but you're right. We'll hope something will be done, will come out of this one. Ladies, let's switch gears if we will. Maybe before you switch gears. Yes. I just wanted to say something on the issue that you've talked about, like South Africa. The last year I was in a meeting with the parliamentarians for global action, and former finance minister for Zimbabwe, Honorable Tendai Biti, was sharing with us research on exactly what you talked about, that they discovered that in the places that there was so much violence before, some dating to 20 years, is where there were higher crime rates, like where there was civic unrest, where people were beaten, you know, like I think in Zimbabwe, you know, the area around, you know, Bulawayo and all that. So there's also something that also comes up with, you know, in Kenya, a lot of people saw post-election violence. During this election cycle, I watch people being shot right in front of me. At some point, you learn to normalize that. And when you normalize that, then you also learn to be violent. So I think we must unlearn, as a country, must also unlearn the culture of violence for whatever period. And especially, I'm targeting especially the election period, because the violence period cycle always targets, you know, the election time. And we cannot afford to be comfortable with violence, because then the ones who have watched violence, who have seen violence, they normalize it. They don't see anything wrong with it. They become numb to it. They become numb to it. And maybe so maybe that's why the handshake was so important. Yes, yes. It was. Huh? Yes. It wasn't just for show. No. I think we need to go even much deeper
I think there was a time I was speaking about this in Parliament, I was almost in tears. Because sometimes we don't realize, you know, how we affect the society, how there are people who are hurting. I remember the lady who lost her child, a Kamba lady, and when she came and we were burying 24 bodies lying in front of us, and you know, for her, it's her child. Yeah. It's not about politics. It's not about we've gone on and we buried. She's going back home and there's no child. But if we continue like that and next season she sees this, she'll become numb to it, and then you become violent. And that's why it's important for the country to start a very deep healing process. And we must learn a culture of doing politics without violence. Yeah. Because then we are making younger people learn that violence is okay. Is
a norm.
Is a norm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sabina, do you think this handshake will last?
It will. Where there's, let me say goodwill, there's a way. And I think I've seen a lot of efforts even after the handshake, because sometimes things are done, you know, and then we forget about them. I've seen even the reception, like when the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga came to Murang'a at the funeral of the late Matiba, the reception he got. You saw when he went to Meru, Kenyans are happy. I'll tell you, by the time we went to the elections, and of course then we had to do the repeat, people were tired. And when we went for the second round, people were telling me, Sabina, you come and tell us we're going to vote again, but we cannot go back to the ballot again. Nyinyi watu mujipange. And Kenyans were annoyed with us. At some point, Kenyans got tired. Yeah. And so right now you can see things are moving. And the kind of conversation we're having at the national level now, at the national level, even at the parliament, it's constructive. It's something that is beneficial. And it's no longer about I standing and talking about the opposition or Raila in that case that would earn me mileage. It is what I will do to the people of Murang'a who voted for me. It's no longer about Millie and her talking about Uhuru or saying bad things about him. It is what she's going to do for her people at Mbita constituency. So at the end of the day, I think we are giving our voters value for their vote. That's what I would like to say. Yeah. And if we are to criticize, we will criticize at a very sober level. We will criticize because we want things to be better, not because we want to look like we want to rubbish what is being done by the other side. And I think I'm already enjoying it. Even at my committee, I'm a chair of a committee, I chair health committee in Parliament. So I'm no longer afraid to disclose what the government is doing and what the plans are, because I know I will not get sabotage from my own members.
And before you were afraid?
Of course. Of course.
She would hide.
I would hide because it will be sabotaged. If you go and tell your enemy, this is what I'm planning to do, they will look at a way to come and sabotage it. But now I have very important people like Dr. Nikal in my committee, and they really add a lot of value. Actually, I find myself consulting a lot. He was a director of medical services before, and he's a respected senior, also member of parliament. So I find myself consulting a lot and asking him, what do you think, what's the opinion? And we end up even spending more time and quality time in the committee. Yeah. And this adds value to what we are going to do in the nation. We have the universal health cover that we are trying to work around it, and we have everybody giving us good ideas. So we are no longer in competition, but we want to make sure that people get value. And I can say Kenyans now can enjoy the value of their vote through the handshake.
But Millie, having said that, who keeps the checks and balances on this union now? I mean, who's the opposition? There is none.
I wouldn't say so.
Huh?
I'm doing my third term in Parliament now. And I can tell you without a shadow of doubt that the best Parliament was actually the Kibaki Raila, in my view. And the reason why is because even though it was a handshake of sorts, but because even as we sit with my sister, but I'm aware, and I can watch, and I can observe, and we guide each other. And sometimes you don't necessarily guide each other by shouting or screaming, because if she knows, like the way she was telling you, and if she knows that Millie is watching, then she's a bit more careful, you know. So it means she will only have the impetus to hide more. But if she knows we are hearing together, then she has actually, you know, she'll be more interested in doing things the right way. And you'll be surprised actually now, even in Parliament, members of Parliament are more interested in what they do for their own constituencies. And they're keen on things being done the right way. So as Parliament, what it has actually done is that it has enhanced the capacity of parliament to be more of an oversight to the executive. Now we are a legislature. Before, when we were fighting each other, then the roles were kind of merged. They were playing the role of the executive in parliament. But now, because we are all sort of in one dish, then we are now the executive against the legislature and vice versa. And I was so glad, like for instance, when our budget chair, Kimani Ichung'wah, was presenting and he was saying, no, the executive needs to do this. I was standing, you know, I was across and I was smiling. I'm like, huh? Who is saying the executive needs to do this? Ichung'wah? So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But the question is, I mean, okay, this all is well and good right now.
Yes.
But as we get closer to 2022, you know the divisions will appear again. It's the silly season, exactly.
Yes.
The divisions will appear again, won't they?
Well, they will.
Yes.
But I think we have learned our lessons. And we have learned our lessons the hard way. And the first time was 2007, 2008, what happened. And at the end of the day, Kenyans lost. Out of our division, out of our fighting hatred, Kenyans lost. Come 2013, the division was not that bad. Come 2017, of course, the repeat elections were not that pleasant. And so there was a lot of hatred. And so we have learned. And if I stand at a platform, 2021, 2022, I'll be careful on what I tell people and what I say. Because I don't know whether what will follow after that will be a handshake and I'll start embarrassed.
Yeah.
So the people who stood and called might be the former Prime Minister names, or the ones who called Uhuru names. And then tomorrow
like
they are like this one. And then tomorrow they are shaking hands.
Yes.
So you know you're left now wondering, now what's next?
Right.
Yes, you did it, but now the guys are together.
Yeah.
And we always knew behind our backs that these people do business together. Their family are very close. Their children go partying together. But we actually fight.
Yes, you're the losers.
At the end of
you're
the
the
day,
biggest losers.
That's it. And so come 2022, I think I'm now maturing politically. I'll know what to say when and what not to say, and I'll be very careful. I don't need to be personal. No, we need to argue on issues, but at the personal level, you never know about tomorrow. And there was always this saying that there are no permanent enemies or friends in politics. That is true. And now the reality has actually hit us.
Millie, have you spoken to the president since that time?
Not yet. I haven't had an occasion to meet him live.
You haven't?
So haven't had. But I can tell you,
yes.
Going by what Sabina says, I can't promise you that that wouldn't happen. You know, politicians will come and say very nice things, then we go back on our word.
Yeah.
What I can say, and I've said it in Parliament and I'll repeat it now, we need to stop playing games with the country and with the population. Because if our leaders set a tempo of hatred, and then we are also leaders, you know, we are leaders at different levels. So if you have leaders at the Prime Minister and the presidency level setting a tempo, and we follow that tempo, and the others follow that tempo, then the violence will reoccur. Yeah. I know a lot of people are talking about legacy, that, you know, the president will leave this country. I will tell you the best legacy that he leave: a united country and a country devoid of corruption. It is difficult, but it is doable. And if we are able to unite this country and get rid of corruption, I can tell you, you know, a lot of all these things that are going on will be history. And I'm glad. So it is up to us as leaders.
Sure. And I'm glad you
to show commitment.
I'm glad you brought that corruption thing up, because, guys, every day there's a new scandal. Yeah. Every day there's a new scam. Yeah. And again, just like these rapists and murderers, these thieves are getting away with it. You know, maybe not recently with this latest NYS, but still you can see people are stealing more because they know they can get away with it. Exactly. And that's why, for me, I'm saying what the president needs to do. You know, sometimes we always think of legacy in terms of I built, you know, this hospital, or I did this, or I did that. Look at Nelson Mandela. What legacy did he leave? How many hospitals did... We don't remember Nelson Mandela by the hospitals he built. We don't remember him by how many roads he did. We remember him for bringing white together with black. So really, in this country, what legacy
the President Uhuru Kenyatta and Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, the Deputy President, and all the top leaders can do to this country is to unite the country. Ethnicity is bringing this country to a standstill. We have no choice but to live here as Kenya. And me, I can tell you at one point, Jeff, I was very happy to go to my Luo corner. And I'm sure once I went to the Luo corner, then would have told, now go to your Suba corner. We were dividing this country in small, small pieces. But this is our country. So we need to very honestly and very genuinely work towards, you know, dealing with that. And it's doable. It calls for a lot of sacrifice, which I can't talk about, but it's up to the leaders to decide. It calls for a lot of sacrifice. Yeah. But you need to, and if again, I've said it before, if the president wants to deal with the issue of corruption, then first of all, he has to ask the people who are around him to move. And what I mean by moving is, I'm not saying they step aside from their jobs or step aside from being in his social networks, but they should stop doing business with government, to give the president a free hand to deal with people who are dipping their hands in the cookie jar. But if they are all around and they are all enmeshed in all this, then if I find my brother, or if I find my friend, if I find my sister, my work colleague in a compromised situation, it limits the way I can handle with you know, that kind of situation. So I think what they need to do is let the president deal with corruption. It's actually bringing the country down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Sabina, someone was saying the other day, the president needs to get angry. He needs to crack the whip, which he seems to be doing. But like Millie just said, if the people around him are dipping their hands in the cookie jar, his hands seem to be tied sometimes. You know, he doesn't want to point at those closest to him.
I think he has been angry enough, and he has tried. And maybe he might not stop people around him doing business, or family also, because it is their right. If they're in business, they can do business. But I think what people need to do in Kenyans, they need to stop being gluttonous. They need to stop being greedy. Kenyans, what businessmen are doing now, and especially now, the best business to do in Kenya is not with the private sector, it's with the government. Why? Because with the government, you can take 90% and leave only 10% to Kenyans. I want to say it is immoral, it is evil, it is actually a curse. Yeah. And people need to wake up to the reality. Why do we wake up in the morning, you just feel, you just hear somebody woke up and sat and died, or things happened? It's because we are doing evil things. And you know, history will judge us. I am unfortunate that I'm a leader at this point when corruption is so high in Kenya. And somehow we seem like there's nothing we can do about it. But I think there's something we can do about it. We were going through the budget. And there are several things that happened between June, you know, when everybody, all of us, in Parliament, we were all of us campaigning. The president was out campaigning. The people in the ministries then, they went on spending spree. They gave out tenders. They gave crazy offers. And they signed and committed the government. And I think what has happened, and it has been a wake-up call when we went through the budgets and what we saw. Some things happened many years before. Some things are happening now. Even some of the officers went against the, you know, the finance, the Public Finance Act, where they even procured without a budget. So this time they're coming to tell us now we need to pay for this because we procured and signed a contract. And I think we need to be very strict, from Parliament to the executive, and people need now to be very open. And the president cannot shield anyone, whether it is people who are very close to him or people who are very far to him. For now, we must really be ready to crack the whip. And you know, these people, they come in and sell goods or give services to the government. And whatever kind of offer they are giving, it is ridiculous. You find that somebody is selling an item which is worth, let's say, 5 million, you're selling it at 200 million. And then they're busy when campaign comes, they take 100 million and go to the president or go to the person they support in politics and say, I'm giving you this for your campaign. It's a shame. It's a shame. I think we need to get a country where we will vote for an individual, not because of the money they give us. And I think our people, the society also need to change. Please don't vote for the governor or for the women rep or for the MCA who gives you a lot of money. And I think our society, we all need to reflect. When we're talking about corruption, we're just looking at NYS because it is out there. But the most corrupt people are even the ones who vote for us. When I go to the village and somebody is asking me, sasa umetuacha aje?
Yeah.
And of course, in our Kikuyu, they normally say, utoshi nekeni.
You say gonya.
You see? I think that is where corruption is.
Yeah.
Because those people who come and give you money, and we miss out voting for good leaders because we will vote for the ones who have the money. And of course, if they have used their money, common sense is they'll have to go back and
make up.
Make up.
Yep.
Because this is a business.
Correct.
It is a trade, and so I have to, you know, recover what I used.
Yes.
And so from there, that is where the root cause is. So when we come to Parliament, then members of Parliament are also compromised because they're also busy trying to cover their expense. And every time we go to you go weekend, there's a funeral, there's a fundraiser, there's what, and if you don't go, you are judged. Yeah. And the question is, if I'm in a county, how many harambes can I attend in one weekend? And so how much money do I have? How much money do I earn? And those are the questions then we start asking ourselves. We need to go back and say, what is the work of a member of Parliament? If it's to make laws, judge me with the laws I made in Parliament, with the budget allocation, which is specifically my role as a member of Parliament. But the society, we have become a society that depends on each other. We depend on what we are to be given. Everybody wants to be given. And so now what happens? We go to the procurement officers. So they'll also look at the person. They have sent out a tender, but by the time they're sending out the tender, they already know who they want to award. And so some of the people who are genuine, who can do very good business, who can save Kenyans a lot of money, they later tell you, as per your tender, you have quoted so low, and our estimates were at this level, because they had done their markups. And so they see this one will not do a good job. And I think we need to, again, do a self-examination. We need to call ourselves, it's a therapy.
Yes.
We need to call ourselves and ask, what are we doing to this nation? Do I want to ruin what my children will enjoy tomorrow?
Exactly.
Because it's not just about me, I'm here now, but I'll go. I have my children, they'll have their own children. And people need to face the reality and just be truthful to themselves. The people who are fleecing this government, please take 10%. Corruption has been there. In the whole world, there's corruption. It is named, there are several names given to it, whether it's something,
lobbying.
Exactly, lobbying, what it is there. But please don't exceed 10%. When you are doing a tender, please don't do more than, it is, you cannot have a profit of 500, 1,000%. It is evil. That money is ruined. It will not, you will get it today, but you'll buy a car, it will kill you. It is not right, and I think Kenyans just need to look at it. It's not just about being taken to court, because this money, they use the same money, they go to the judges, and they buy their freedom.
That's right.
Because they have the money. So we just need to ask ourselves, what are we doing? And by the time you're sending out that tender, when you're a procurement officer, when you're in that tender committee, because not just about one person. Now the procurement people have been told to step aside, but I don't even know whether they sit in the tender committees. There are people, there's a team that sit in the tender committee and they determine who is going to get that tender. And so we need to wake up, all of us. It's not just about the ones we are looking at who are in court now. All of us, ask yourself, Jeff, when you are here, the person you host here at JKL Live, so is it genuine? Is it because you know the person? Is it because you want to drive your own personal agenda or the station agenda? Or are you doing it from your heart? Are you doing it because you want to benefit the country? Or do you want to drive an agenda to the specific level? Even the media.
Sure.
When we talk about corruption, yes, we will say somebody is corrupt. And so, are we the investigators? Why do we go ahead and start calling people and texting them and asking them, do you own this hotel? Are you part of this? And we start speculating. Even so-and-so, Sabina's husband or Emily's relative is the one who is trading with so-and-so. We have become investigators, we have become the judges, we have become the policemen, we have become everything. Stick to your lane. Let everybody do their work. And I think as a nation, even when we publish these names and we flash them, we put them in the front page. Please remember, they have children. They have families. When we are saying the society have become violent, my children will see. If they will ask me, Mommy, so you have stolen. So they are saying this about you. They are saying you should be assassinated. And they are saying all this. You know, we have become a global village. Everything that is written in the social media, we have the bloggers. By the time you decide you're going to write about Millie, and just, you know, we are just talking about corruption, about money. But why? Because you want to threaten. We have some gutter press, I don't want to name them, but they will put your story as a front page because they call you and tell you, kuna ka story tunataka ku release. And so if you don't unleash whatever they want, then they go ahead and publish.
If you don't chotter.
If you don't chotter.
What I wake up.
So let's not just look at corruption as one NYS. It's just one example. But we are most corrupt from our families. We have women who are killing their husbands when their children are seeing. What are we doing? So let us do a personal reflection. And I would like to call for a national personal reflection. And maybe one day, we just, I'm a Catholic. We normally go for confession. We might not all of us afford priests to go and confess to them. But we might need to just have an open room and confess at your own individual level. Confess your sins, how corrupt you've been, and we must just decide to make up our mind and say, from today henceforth, we will stop corruption in this nation. And that one, the president talked about it and people ridiculed it. It starts with you. Corruption will start, you stop. If you don't corrupt, if you don't give a police officer something, kitu kidogo, then they'll not ask for it because they'll ask for it today and tomorrow. They'll get tired. They'll not ask for it. And they'll know it will not be forthcoming. So we need now to have systems. But as we establish these systems, they are used by human beings. Let's start with personal reflection. From the bishop, how do you use your tithe? From the priests, from now ourselves, from the women who are the housewives, who steal from their husbands when they are asleep, when they come home drunk. From the men, everybody, from the children who are given school fees, they go and eat. It is personal reflection, and I think we need, as a nation, to sit back and ask ourselves, what am I doing to fight corruption? Because it's a monster, and I said it's evil, and we will actually make this country get cast. Because when you go and take money that was meant for a sick person, that was meant, you buy an equipment that was meant to go and help people, and then you want to buy that equipment with the price 50 times. And you're enjoying driving a big car. And we don't even have doctors. We cannot afford to employ doctors because we bought equipment and there is nobody to operate them in our hospitals. It is evil. It is evil.
Jeff, just to address the issue of the supply and demand.
Yes.
We normally look at the people who've been nabbed. Who, you say, oh, this person got so much. But again, as Sabina says, if we don't look at the demands that the society places, especially on leaders, that forces people to go to, corrupt. I'm not saying it's justifiable, but we must deal both with the supply and demand side. I'll give you an example. I'm not a very rich person. I live comfortable, enough for me. I don't look to be very rich. I don't care because anyway, I know we are not going to live here permanently. Very soon we are all dead and going wherever. And I don't think I'll carry my houses or whatever I have there. So when my house was burnt during election, I didn't have the best looking house in the world. It's pretty ugly actually, to be honest. And then everybody was like, people were sharing it on Facebook. This is a house of member of parliament? What are you telling me? That if I can't afford it, I need to steal so that I have a very good house. It's okay, I can do a good house. I gave my mother a good house. But with the commitment I have at a familial level, with the commitment I have for my constituency, Suba North, I know I can only do so much. But if suddenly I do something out of the ordinary, find out where I got that money from. It's what it's called lifestyle audit. And on this account, I think, I don't know what challenges the ethics and anti-corruption body is having. But honestly, why can't they start with lifestyle audit?
That's it. That's
we were with you in parliament. Suddenly you bought hotels. You are buying choppers. You are buying. Where did you get that money from?
Simple question.
And it's not about me being jealous. It's just about me saying this money was meant for a sick child who has died, because they are not able to get medication. Recently, when we went as budget committee to the Coast, General Hospital. And I want to congratulate 001 for doing a very good job, actually. I wasn't there the first day, but the committee insisted that we have to go and see what they're actually doing in the hospital. Unfortunately, we found this young boy. He had been going through chemotherapy. And then after that, he's supposed to go for radiology. But the machine is not there because it's too expensive. I think it's 1 billion and the county can't afford it. So he has to travel to Nairobi. And he can't afford to travel to Nairobi. So what does it do? He gets better and then now it recurs. And they are there with him and they say, we can't do much for him. And we were all so depressed when we were leaving that place. While you are taking the money meant for a sick boy who needs that money. Let me tell you, even though I know we must do prosecution, but people must also know that there is a higher being that will one day get to them. I want to give you an example, and I apologize if that person is watching, but they need to understand this. One time I visited a person, and from what I know about the person, they shouldn't have had the kind of house they had. So I asked a mutual friend who we went with, and I'm like, oh, why does this person have this kind of house? And he said, oh, because there was a very, rich white person who came to Kenya and was touched by the plight of children with special needs, and gave the money for them to give people with special needs, and he took the money and built this wonderful house. Guess what? In his house, he has a child with special needs. So God gives you what you've asked for.
Yes.
Yeah, because he is taking care of a child with special
justice.
Needs. Poetic justice.
Right?
Yeah.
Ladies, I want to take a break. That's great. I mean, I'm glad we're having this conversation, because when I have men on this bench, they never talk about these issues. So it's good. Well done.
Thank you.
I want to take a break, come back and talk about Sonko and Nairobi and Miguna and Pasaris.
Yes.
Everybody wants to be the deputy.
Yes.
Hey.
We want your thoughts.
Okay.
Let's do that after the break. Malipa ni wapi?
Hapa.
There you go. Ladies, speaking out. Sober conversation about the state of our nation. That's exactly what we need at this time. Mbita Member of Parliament Millie Odhiambo, Super North. Super North, not Super.
Yeah, it was changed to Super North from Beta. So you can say Mbita Super North.
Beta Super North Member of Parliament Millie Odhiambo, Moranga County Women's Rep, Sabina Chege here in the studio, shaking hands, hugging, and speaking the truth. Jeff Kananga Live takes a break. Keep tweeting. We'll be reading your tweets in a little short while, and also talk about a couple more issues. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.